I still like the other ice better.
Nugget ice is superior. I do think if I had the space, I would own a nugget ice maker because this sounds good.
It's just not as good.
It's just not as satisfying as when you've got that nugget ice all day.
It's like a little higher pitch. It's like...
Oh, that sound. It's also 2 sips into tea, so we'll see if we can make intelligible conversation happen.
Okay. Hi, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Courtney.
Join us as we delve into true crime, paranormal encounters, and all things spooky.
Grab your flashlight and get ready to wander into the darkness with us.
This is Wicked Wanderings. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Hannah.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Wonderful. Then we have tea.
And a dog.
Are we ready for my episode today?
I am. I actually, for the first time in a while, think I don't know what your episode is about until I'm sitting here.
Oh, I'm going to be talking about different lore stories in Massachusetts.
Perfect.
I thought we need a little more spook.
We need a little bit more spook. We need a little bit more local.
Yes, we do need a little more local. So anyways, I found this book at the good B&N. It's called Spooky Massachusetts, Tales of Hauntings, Strange Happenings, and Other Local Lore. It's just like a compilation of stories from different areas of Massachusetts. So as I'm reading it, it sounds like it's from, like someone sent in these stories to her to help her compile this type of book. So as I'm reading them, you'll see why it would sound like that. But something that she says in the beginning of the book that I just tickled me pink, and I'll tell you why. So she's talking about the Pilgrims coming to Massachusetts.
Okay.
But I do have to quote everybody.
And here I am quoting.
Little did they know, when they stepped ashore on Plymouth Rock, that survival in this harsh new world would force them to adapt their customs and thinking so much that they would found a whole new breed of plucky people that we call Yankees.
We are kind of plucky.
We are. And the reason I just so tickled by that is because I remember my great aunt and great uncle. So it was my grandmother's, on my mom's side's brother and wife.
Okay.
The stories of her reusing tinfoil, like she would wash it and hang it out on the line. And that's like the first thought that came to mind. Like very frugal.
I feel like the people of New England probably are how the show Extreme Cheapskates started.
Probably.
Did you ever watch that show?
No, I like the coupon people though.
But that's different. These people, it was like, they reused their dental floss.
Oh,
they were like using cloth napkins for the bathroom and then washing them and putting them back in. And they would have these like beautiful, like multi-million-dollar homes, and like one cabinet in the kitchen would have items in it. And I was like, I just couldn't get past as a kid, like, why do they need all these cabinets for nothing?
There's some things I don't mind being like reusable stuff to save the environment.
Right.
So like we have a Swiffer that has pads to it. So you can use it a couple times and then you wash it and you can take it back out again. I don't mind doing
That's
that.
not cheapskate though. That's how it's supposed to be designed to use. That's different.
But dental floss, that just...
My weird thing that everybody always tells me that's not a big deal is if you go to like a gas station and you buy a bottle of water.
Yeah.
When people will keep refilling that bottle of water. I'm like, the particles in the water, especially if you like leave it in your car or you leave it out and it's not in the fridge or whatever. The minute it hits a certain temperature, that bottle is breaking down in your water and you can taste it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's my weird thing that I can't reuse.
There's some that say they're BP free or whatever, but some aren't.
Right.
And isn't that the kind of toxin that gets in the water when it heats up? Ugh.
Yeah.
Rob did it this morning for his Poland Springs, the big gallon jug, but I guess it's okay for like one overuse.
Probably.
But
I think it's like if you also just leave it in the car, that's the biggest one.
No, thank you.
No.
But anyway, so New Englanders, we are a different breed. Massachusetts, I believe, is a different breed. If you know, you know. That's really.
And if you don't, you're about to be very fascinated.
All right, so let's get into some spooky ghost stories. So our first one's from New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Okay.
This woman decides to go to a friend's house for the weekend. Okay, cool. No, that's not unusual, right? It's late. She has a couple hours drive to the friend's house from her work. She gets this really weird, irky feeling. You know, the kind that you just get in your gut, like, I feel like I'm being watched or something's going to happen. Oh, God, I hate it too. So there's like a shift in the force and you're just not sure where. She keeps driving. She passes the town cemetery at 9:52 p.m. I was like, so
very specific.
Very specific and weird,
Very
right?
specific.
And in the graveyard, she sees this light. And mind you, it's dark. Why is there a light on in the graveyard? She notices a woman walking among the gravestones. We all love a good graveyard. I mean, is this unusual?
Depends on what the woman looked like, I suppose, you know?
Well, the woman in the graveyard turns, sees her, and notices she's being watched and begins to chase the car.
Yeah, I would probably just wave. I'd be like, hello, hi.
She is so flustered by the time she reaches her friend's house. And of course, the friend is like, what the fuck happened to you?
Right,
like, what's going on?
right.
So her friend ends up telling the tale of this terrifying woman, and with the figure with the scary eyes, teeth, like it's just like something out of a horror movie. The friend says, oh, that's the ghost of an accused witch. She tells the tale of this woman who is accused of witchcraft, and if you see her, it means it's a bad omen.
Oh, no.
Later that night, there was a knock on the door, and the police were there. Her friend's parents died in a car accident at 9:52 p.m.
Oh, my God.
Right?
9:52.
Creepy. This also reminds me of the Irish lore of the banshee.
Refresh us on that one.
Okay, so the banshee is an Irish folklore that this woman will come to you in the middle of the night, and it usually means there's going to be a death in your household. Not necessarily you, but that there's a death in your household.
Like within your actual, like the home that you live in. Okay.
Yep. I don't know if this is like a carryover type of thing or how much, obviously, truth is in
Right.
it, but I feel like all lore starts off with a base in truth.
Something, yeah. Or a coincidence at the very least.
We'll move on to Plymouth, okay?
Plymouth.
So the year is unknown, but based off the language in the tale, it seems to be a time like before cars, but like when ships were still a big thing for like travel and economy, somewhere in there. And there was a couple, and the girl's name was Polly, the boy's name was Joe, and they were engaged. So Joe worked for his dad on this ship, and they were fishermen. So they would go off the coast for a couple days, get as much seafood as they could, come back, right? Polly talks about how instead of getting flowers like other girls, she would get baskets of cod, which practical. Her family loved it, but it always
Not very
smelled like
romantic.
fish. Not very romantic, but I guess in those days when you can have food on the table.
It was probably also market-wise like a higher prestige type of thing too. Like I know when you
Absolutely.
hear cod, you don't think about that now for like fish market. But
Right. Imagine, fiancé bringing you a cod.
Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
I would be getting a new fiance.
So one day she was headed to town and she knew Joe was on a work trip on the boat. She wasn't planning on seeing him at all. But all of a sudden, Joe is coming towards her with a basket of fish. She's so happy to see him, minus the smell, obviously.
Minus the basket of fish that she wishes was flowers. Yeah.
Right. And so she's like, oh, like, hi, like, where did you come from? He hands her the basket and says, you know how much I love you, right? Like, you mean a lot to me. And she's thinking like, yeah, duh, like, we're
getting
engaged.
married,
like,
buddy.
What did
Yeah.
I miss? All of a sudden, he vanishes. And she's left there with this bag of fish.
Okay,
And
so the fish wasn't a mirage. It was actually there.
to her.
Okay. Sorry, getting ahead.
Okay, that's fine. So of course she's like, what the fuck happened? Did I look down too long and then he had to go?
Bolted.
She brings the fish home, and her parents love the meals of fish and seafood that there are. So they were very excited. They're like, oh, our in-laws are providing for us. This is great. The next morning, a neighbor is at the door and wants to speak privately with Polly's parents. They come out of the room, and her father tells her that Joe's ship went down a storm a few days back and he died. No, there's no way. Like, she starts getting upset. She's like, wait a minute, I just saw him yesterday and we ate his fish for dinner last night. Her parents admitted that when the mother put the basket of seafood on the table, it vanished and they ended up eating fish from the market last night.
So I'm like, and they just were like casually, let me just put this. Oh no, where did the fish go? Let's go buy some.
In the story, the mother was extremely distraught, like she had hid something from her daughter.
Okay.
Because she was very upset about that, and they just kind of like replace it, kind of like, I think of like when your fish dies as a kid and your parents don't want you upset, so they go out and get the same one. That's kind of like how I felt about it. But yeah.
Except it was already dead fish.
Already dead fish. I thought it was interesting. I was like, okay.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah. Moving on. Oh, Courtney. Guess where we're going next?
Salem?
Nope.
North Adams?
Yes.
Hoosac Tunnel?
Yes.
Bloody pit?
It's not mentioned as the bloody pit, but I'm curious if you know this tale.
Okay.
Emma and her husband were setting up for their life in North Adams. They wanted to start a family, so the husband started working for the railroad. I'm sure you could probably tell a lot more about this. I'm sure that was like a big, big deal. Like that was the big job back then besides factories.
Yeah, especially when they were first putting the tunnel in and things too. There was a lot of jobs for the creation of it and then a lot of jobs because the trains were coming through.
This was such a big project because they were trying to connect Boston to Troy, New York, which I don't think I actually knew that it was going to be that big of a piece of the railroad system. They began working on the tunnel, and his coworkers already told him stories of the deaths that were already happening. They told him the story about a couple years back when 2 men were killed due to a premature explosion. Do you know about a man named Ringo Kelly?
I don't know him by name. I know they had that set of deaths from the explosion, which was different than when the central shaft collapsed in.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. 2 separate unfortunate instances.
Perfect. So you probably will know most of the story. So a man named Ringo Kelly was responsible. He fled soon after the incident. No one had seen him until he was found in the tunnel a year later after the incident, strangled. It is said that the 2 men that he killed were the ones that killed him.
I mean, and that would make sense. So anybody who isn't familiar with the tunnel, like it's miles long of tunnel. If you walk in even 5 or 6 feet, you can't, and obviously you're not looking out of the tunnel when you're looking in.
Right.
You can't see anything. You can't see anything at all. And it's very, very narrow in there. Like there's no way somebody would just be waiting in there with, especially if a train was expected to come through just for somebody.
How far have you been in it?
A couple of minutes in, but it's, you can't walk all the way through it. If a train were to come through, you would be dead. Like at a certain point, it starts really wide and then it gets narrow, obviously. So at some points, like you would be waiting. You'd either have to be walking on the track and you're only looking at like maybe a foot at the very most on either side of the track. Or you have to wait until like there's like dips in the wall where you could kind of like dip in. But if a train came through there, you'd be dead.
So the railroad track is still used.
Yes.
It was the purpose for Phil going from Boston to New York.
I'm assuming it was, now it looks like they just do it for like foliage and things or for transport of goods.
Okay.
So I don't believe it's a passenger rail that goes through.
Like an Amtrak type of thing.
No.
Okay.
I think they used to do a thing where you could like buy tickets to ride through it, which I thought would be pretty cool, but I don't think it's a passenger trail that goes through it. I think it's just goods, things moving in and out of the area.
Interesting. Okay. So on October 19th, 1867, he was carrying away debris when he heard an explosion. He rushed to help and saw the shaft was up in flames, which is the story you were talking about. 13 men were caught down there, and there was nothing they could do. Time passed, and the work continued. And because of different conditions, the men could not be recovered yet. And so every time he went to work, he would hear voices, and it would make his skin crawl, which I can't imagine working that close to it and just knowing these people are down there. Probably dead at this point, but of course you would probably hear voices.
Well, also, what if they're not and the voices are actually
true.
them? That's what would be in my head.
Absolutely.
Because you have no way of knowing, and obviously, I mean, it was an unfortunate thing, but there was no way to get them out.
Yeah. One night he was wrapping up and he saw a group of men shining blue, and their feet were not touching the ground, walking towards the tunnel. They were able to retrieve the men and gave them proper burials, and he quit the railroad and went to work for a shop. So he obviously saw the ghosts of the 13 men like they were walking into work again.
Well, I always thought, like, what a terrible way to go. One, because of the disaster, but 2, like, damn, if I'm going to die, please don't let it be at work. And if I am going to die at work, I don't want to be haunting it. I don't want to be stuck there.
Yeah, I would hope my death would just be quick. Like, I wouldn't have to stop, like, knowing you're dying.
Right.
Like, it's like being buried alive. It irks me.
Well, then that's kind of probably what it was like, being trapped down there.
Yeah. Ooh, moving on.
North Adams always makes it in for the Hoosac Tunnel. Either that or the Houghton Mansion. That was my second guess. Option, yeah.
And a little bit honestly, I was hoping that it would be a different story than the ones that are really well known. Like, oh, did they get a different kind of tale? But
and nothing against this book. There's some books that I find like do the lesser known tales, and then there's some that I feel like do just the big ones because people are interested in those. So it's easier to sell a book, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next we're going to the Cape of the Cod. 2 young friends were home from college and wanted to make the most of their summer. They wanted to get a couple of waitressing jobs and a cheap place to live on the Cape for the summer. They knew it would be expensive and they would not save much money. Well, a family friend actually reached out to one of them and they said, hey, like, we knew that you wanted to work on the Cape for the summer. We actually recently just bought a house. We can't move in for a couple months. Do you guys want to stay there for the summer? And we're like, fuck yeah, we do.
Right,
like, free rent? Absolutely.
There's always a catch.
So the girls jumped on it. It was an old captain's house, which probably made it even cooler that it was older. The girls each got their own bedroom. They started their jobs and made it a tradition to go to the beach whenever they could, which sounds like a typical college girl summer. One day they were walking upstairs and one of the girls felt this really cold draft. She asked her friend, like, hey, did you feel that? Like, it just felt like this big wind of cold. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. One girl had the room at the top of the stairs and the other took the room at the end of the hall. Well, one night, soon after moving in, the friend who had the room at the top of the stairs started seeing a figure in a shroud walking up the steps. She was, of course, frozen in fear. She couldn't move. And then she saw the figure was turning towards her friend's room. Frozen in fear really became a thing for her because she's like, oh, I'll be able to move. But like having that fear and not being able to move was something she actually came to know very well. But I want you to know, Courtney, if this happened to us, I would make sure I moved for you. I'm just saying.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I want to hear how scary the thing is before I tell you if I would or not.
She ends up falling asleep again. I don't know from
how.
Exhaustion or just like, well, she'll have to defend herself. And wakes up freaking out about her friend. So she rushes down the hall, sees that she's not there, but then she hears noises in the kitchen. She sees her friend. The friend is fine, making breakfast. And she says she must have had a nightmare. Like, I didn't see anything last night. Nothing happened. She offered to switch rooms with her. And the friend's like, yes, can we please switch rooms? The first couple nights are fine, but then the friend experiences the same thing. And she is adamant she wants her old room back. She's like, bitch, I'm not doing this anymore.
Fuck you. Give me my room back.
The shrouded figure is seen again. And they say, fuck it, we're going home. I cannot imagine being that scared of something that I'm not sure of what it is and just like basically canceling the rest of my summer.
I'd probably just say, why don't we drag the other bed into this room and we're both just sleeping here?
That's also a very good solution,
or
right?
we just sleep in this one bed.
Right.
Depending on the size of the bed.
Or trying to figure out, like, is it like
I'd want to like dig into the history of the place and be like, well, is it harmful? I'd probably like call the person who owns the house. My creepy ass would probably want to stay because of it.
I'm also thinking of, so I remember watching an episode of a ghost show and this little boy kept seeing shadows in the middle of the night, and they came to find out the way that the light from the garage, there was people passing in front of it, so it looked like shadows in his room. So I'd be like, was it something on the street that you were seeing or whatever? You never
staring
know.
At you like that because we watched that one together.
We did? Oh! Well, anyways, it's a good example.
It is a really good example because the family was adamant in that one that it was like, no, it's something creepy. And like within a few hours, they were able to put the spotlight up and be like, oh no, It's because you're walking in front of the garage outside.
Right. I forgot what you did. Well, okay. Moving on. So the school year soon begins and the family friends give one of the girls a call, asking if they had experienced anything strange in the house. They explained that there was a figure that they kept seeing, and the couple was so glad that they weren't going crazy. Looking at town files is that there was actually a widow who could be seen in the house waiting for her sea captain who never returned from home. Some say it is the captain himself haunting the house. In the end, the house was sold again. They didn't keep it.
But harmless though.
I know. So to me,
the poor woman's just waiting for her husband who's not coming. You could just make friends or something.
Right. But for me, it sounds more like residual energy.
Right.
Not a haunting.
Yeah, I agree. But I think people loosely use the word haunting. Like we're all guilty of that where we're like, oh no, there's something here. It's haunted.
Yes.
Like because there's something there, we just assume that it's negative or evil in some capacity.
Because it sounds like they're just doing that same motion and it just sounds like residual
stuck,
energy.
Like stuck in a loop. Yeah. Yep. Plus, I also feel like, I don't know, and I've lived in old buildings, so maybe I just am more accustomed to that. But I think some people just can't live with the idea of something being present, and some people can. Like, I think I would be like, okay, I don't love it, but they were here first, and now I'm here.
That's how I feel. Like, it just, I don't know.
I mean, this building is old. This building is old, provided because of what it was. I don't think anything, like, super, horrible happened. I mean, before this spot was here, I guess, but we talked about that.
Yeah, I think what the land is could be haunted, not the building.
Right.
Yes.
And we've certainly had our times where we're podcasting and we can hear something through. We've heard things come through the board where we're like, what was that? And then Rob either doesn't hear it on the playback or there's no rhyme or reason. Yep. Earlier you were talking and I saw a shadow. I was like, oh, okay. Really? I thought it was I thought it was Lynn from Springfield coming in. I was like, oh, it must be 11. I looked down and I was like, it's 10. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've also talked about, like, I've heard footsteps when Rob's gone.
Yeah.
Last night even, like, I know both of our boys were all playing airsoft all day, and I swear I heard the door creak in here. And I was like, oh, Rob. I was like, wait a minute, Rob's not home. I was like, why? I know it's not him.
And certain houses have certain, like, even at my house, there's a certain step when you're coming up. I can hear the front door and then I can hear one step.
Yep.
And provided, like, other people live in the building too.
Right.
But when I know everyone's home and it's like 2 a.m. and I'm like, okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Same thing with the land for that place.
Yeah.
So I would have kept her.
I would have kept her too. Poor lady.
Plus, I just also have a hard time when people purchase an old house and they like want the lure of something old, but then they can't handle that something old actually has history.
Yep. Especially
good, bad, ugly. Yeah.
The wood keeps energy really well, which we've learned.
And I also just feel like the whole thing of like near the sea, like I just feel like you like wanted the aesthetic of something, but then you couldn't handle it when you got it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Should have kept her.
I know.
I bet she was lovely.
I bet she was too. Amesbury.
One of my college roommates was from Amesbury.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Hi, friend. So a man comes back from World War II and unfortunately lost his leg. Even with this tragic circumstance, he was just happy to be home with his family and fiancée. Everyone wanted to see him. Everyone was happy to have him back. His fiancée had to go get her dress fitted because, like, now that he's home, like, great, let's have this wedding, right? So she decided to go into town for a bit and just leave him to have some family time. After a while, he starts getting antsy and he decided to go for a walk. And of course, he has crutches, so walking is a little more difficult for him, but he wants to keep his independence. With some deterrence from his family, he's like, no, like, fuck you guys, I need to go take a walk.
Right, I need to take some space.
So his aunt sees him off and says something very strange. Okay, be careful of the soldier that's looking for his head. What the hell? Like, that's a really strange thing to say to someone that's going on a walk.
Especially somebody who just came back from war.
And apparently
with
was
a
at
missing
Normandy.
limb.
That was something they said in the story.
Okay.
Like, that is very strange.
Yeah.
Sun is setting and the streets are getting quieter. The kids are going home. The parents are calling them in. The cars are less on the road. Just kind of a picture of like the street lights coming on and it's getting dark. As he keeps walking, he sees a gentleman up ahead coming towards him. And what his aunt said pops into his head again. He feels silly because compared to what he's seen in the war, he's like, I can deal with a ghost, right?
Right.
As the man approaches, he notices that he is in uniform, but it's not the World War II uniform. It's the Revolutionary War uniform. And he has no head.
So obviously it's not a real person who's actually there because a head is a very crucial component.
Exactly. So this guy bolts. And you imagine this poor man with one leg hobbling on crutches.
She did warn him, to be fair.
She did. He makes it all the way to town somehow. I don't know how close town is, but he made it there. He finds the shop his fiancée is at and he barges in, starts freaking out. And of course, she's like, what the hell happened? First of all, what are you doing here? This is my dress fitting.
How did you get here?
Yes. So he decides to go wait for her in the car. He grabs a blanket out of the back seat, hides underneath the dashboard, and puts the blanket over his head. I'm thinking from her perspective, like, oh my God, is he having like PTSD attack type thing? So she comes out to see him and she finally gets him to sit down and she's like, what the fuck happened? I'm going to bring you home. Are you okay? And so when she got him to sit, he starts talking about, oh yeah, I saw that soldier that haunts the streets that has no head. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's been local lore forever. Apparently, it happened in the Revolutionary War. He got shot off by a cannon, and now he haunts the streets for over 200 years looking for it.
Poor guy.
I know. He's harmless, she said. Yeah. Again, is that just like a residual energy type thing? Obviously, that land used to be something else, and he's just...
I don't think a lot of people put a lot of thought into what used to be places.
Yes, absolutely.
Or like if they think what used to be, it's like what used to be like 30 years ago, not like 300 years ago.
Right. It just didn't used to be like some metropolis right here. It was something else at the time.
Right.
Absolutely.
Or I think, especially for kind of where we are too geographically, I think a lot of people just assume like, oh, it was farmland. Oh, it was farmland. And it's like, yeah, well, before it was farmland, it was something too.
Right. There's something I also want to... There was this story out of, Westboro, but it ended up being a Native American story. I feel so ignorant and stupid sometimes because I'm like, oh my God, yeah, because obviously this was Native American land.
Right.
They had a story from Westboro at the lake that was there.
Okay.
So just to the point of what you're saying is like, this used to be something else than what it is now. It obviously wasn't all cars and railroads and planes and car dealerships, right? And tea places. All right. Are we ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay. This is a very weird town. I've never heard of it. Sorry, whoever lives here. Rehoboth,
Massachusetts?
Uh-huh.
Hang on, how do we spell that? Let's figure out.
I looked it up already.
I need to conceptualize this.
It's right near Rhode Island. Rehoboth. It's diagonal.
Like Rehoboth.
Or right across from Providence.
Okay.
I had to look it up. I'm like, where the hell is Rehoboth?
Oh, it's near Seekonk.
Girl, do I look like I know where Seekonk is?
It's past Taunton.
Okay, Taunton, I know.
Yeah, most people would.
But I had to look it up like, oh, it's actually really close to Rhode Island.
And Fall River. It's pretty close to
Fall River, where our girl Lisbeth is from.
Yes.
I was thinking you would know where it was because you're always in Rhode Island.
Nope. I had that.
Interesting.
I've never even heard of that place. Like sometimes there's those places that you've heard of and you're like, oh, I just don't know where it is.
Yeah.
No.
Do you know Route 44?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to talk about Route 44.
Okay.
So friends were together, kind of like at a diner type thing. They were discussing the tale of the hitchhiker on Route 44.
Okay.
So one couple was adamant, like, this ghost is real. The other ones are like, no, they're not. The ones that said they don't believe are like, all right, well, if we see this guy, we'll owe you pizza for a year.
That's
and
a
then
good deal.
I know, right?
I would take that deal.
Don't have anything to lose, right? Just no pizza or you get pizza. So after they parted ways, the doubting couple decided to take Route 44. Let's take that home and see what happens.
Oh, no.
They wanted to prove their friends wrong. Well, they're driving along when the woman notices a man with a red beard and hair. He had on like a lumberjack shirt type thing and jeans. He's jogging alongside the car, which mind you is going between 50 and 60 miles per hour.
So you know he's not really there
because... But she is freaked the fuck out.
I mean, I don't blame her. It's almost like he heard her doubting.
Yes.
And was like, here I am.
Yes. She starts freaking out, telling her husband to drive faster. But before long, the hitchhiker is now sitting in the back seat. So this woman is taking her purse and whamming this guy in the face. Now, what happens if we're hitting a ghost, Courtney?
Probably nothing.
Probably nothing.
They might just get mad.
It's going right through them probably, right?
I would probably just stop the car and get out.
So she's yelling at this man to get the fuck out of my car, and he's laughing. He thinks it's hilarious. Then she notices, she remembers she has a rosary around her neck. She starts saying the rosary. He doesn't like it, ends up vanishing, and then they make it home. Courtney's just staring at me
I feel like maybe if you didn't know, I'm trying to like think about her response, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like if you didn't know about the ghost, if you didn't know that it was a thing, you might be like, oh my gosh, where did this person come from? And like first instinct, I can see taking a swing to be like, because your first instinct is not going to be, hey, there's a person sitting here, they must be a ghost.
Right.
But if you were just spending your whole dinner out talking about this and then you went looking for it, I just think you'd be a little bit more prepared.
Well, I guess the guy woke up and he was like, well, it looks like I owe someone pizza.
And what was the husband's response to that? He just kept driving?
He was swerving, and I don't know if part of what the hitchhiker wants to do is cause a car crash.
Okay.
Because that's what it seemed like from the story. Like he was just trying to get control back of the car because he didn't want to crash. But he kept driving as best as he could, and then the guy finally vanished.
Interesting. And it makes me wonder if it's a hitchhiker or if it's somebody who also got into an accident and he's like, okay, let's get friends. Like, let's.
But there's another story that my neighbor Joe talks about with an apparition of some sort in Munson. There's a part in Munson Road that they see an apparition on all the time.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I'll have to ask him what the whole story is, but it's interesting.
You heard that one, right?
I think that was me.
No, you didn't move. The crash.
Hello? On that note, maybe we'll go talk to ghosts for a while.
We'll do something interesting. Pick a card, any card. Oh, it's my turn to pick a card.
It is your turn.
Oh, I really hope I can pronounce the person's name. I always feel so inadequate when I'm doing this activity. I think I want this one. Okay, so we have the 3 of Spades. It is Devin Murphy.
Okay.
On October 13th, 2002, the victim was at a house party at 4 Weaver Street in Wareham. There was an altercation outside and he was fatally stabbed.
Oh.
If you have any info about this case, please call 1-855-MA-SOLVE.
Dude, that's fucked up. If he was at a party...
He looks so young, too.
He was at a party and no one saw shit or is going to come forward with it?
That's what I think is really interesting. It's like... And so often you hear that. This person was at a party and then nothing. And it really makes me wonder, like... Well, I guess first, were they a guest of the party and people knew they were there? Or were they someone who was like maybe not supposed to be there? He looks so young.
Sucks.
Looks so young. Oh, these are always we have to find a new way to do cards because I feel like we have like a lighthearted episode talking about something and then we end with this like sad image of somebody that makes my heart hurt.
Well, thank you, Courtney, for joining me on this lore journey, and there will be more upcoming.
I can't wait. Okay. Maybe I'll try to find some of my own counters. So
Yes, I would
holes
love
in
that.
your stories.
Please do. Because again, obviously these are just people's tales that get passed down, and I think that's what makes them fun.
Absolutely, because they're always different. And then if you've ever had something that happened, like one of those stories, let us know.
Text us.
Not just you, Cousin Mark. Okay, bye, Wanderers.
Bye. Thanks for listening today. Wicked Wanderings is hosted by me, Hannah.
And co-hosted by me, Courtney.
And it's produced by Rob Fitzpatrick.
Music by Sasha M.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave a rating and review, and be sure to follow on all socials. You can find the links down in the show notes. If you're looking for some really cozy t-shirts or hoodies, head over to the merch store. Thank you for being a part of the Wicked Wanderings community. We appreciate every one of you. Stay curious, keep exploring,
and always remember to keep on wandering.
A sincere expression of gratitude to our esteemed patrons for their generous monthly contributions. Cousin Mark and Ashling.
Karen and
Stephanie, you too can become a valued patron and unlock a realm of exclusive content by supporting our mission for as little as $3 a month. Your contributions sustain our commitment to delivering high-quality content. Visit wickedwanderingspodcast.com and click on the support tab to join the ranks of our dedicated patrons. Thank you for considering this opportunity to deepen your engagement with Wicked Wanderings. Your support is paramount in enabling us to continue our journey into the realms of mystery and true crime.